Well, a senior Pakistani general says the country will respond to Indian strikes at a time, place and means of its own choice. So what can we expect in the coming hours and days? Brahma Chellaney is a professor of strategic studies at the Center for Policy Research in New Delhi, and he joins me now. Good to have you with us this evening. Now, the first question I do want to ask you is, India has launched these strikes. Can we expect more from India?
The ball is in Pakistan's court. There'll be a response from Pakistan for sure. After all, Pakistan's military generals, who are the de facto rulers of the country, they need to save face, and they will respond. At that point, India will have to decide whether it should respond to the response or let matters go. That would be a critical decision for India.
Yes, so what do you think the Prime Minister Modi would do in that scenario?
It's difficult to guess, but today India's patience has worn thin. For decades now, Pakistan has been waging proxy war by terrorism, using terrorists as surrogates. No country can be expected to put up with an adversary's undeclared war. India is now turning up the pressure for accountability. There is national consensus in India, which is quite rare because India is a very polarized country, a democracy where pro-Modi and anti-Modi forces are quite vehemently opposed to each other. And yet today, both sides are demanding that the government impose tangible costs on Pakistan. I think the path forward lies in the hands of the Pakistani rulers, which is to end the export of terrorism and see the relationship with India become mutually beneficial.
And of course, many people are watching this from afar, like here in Australia, and of course are aware that both India and Pakistan are nuclear-armed countries. As far as nuclear weapons are concerned, will this be a no-go zone for either country?
Well, first, in the bigger picture, it's not just India and Pakistan. China and Pakistan are close allies. They're both nuclear armed. So it's a nuclear triangle. And the threat that India faces is not coming from Pakistan alone. China has consistently provided diplomatic, strategic, and military cover for Pakistan, including for its export of terrorism, including repeatedly blocking UN sanctions against top Pakistani terrorists. And after the latest massacre in India, which created this present crisis, China has again come to Pakistan's rescue by rushing new weapon systems and describing Pakistan as an all-weather strategic partner. India has called Pakistan's nuclear bluff in the past. For example, in 2019, India carried out an airstrike deep inside Pakistan. It called Pakistan's nuclear bluff. It left a deep hole in the nuclear shield behind which Pakistan sponsors cross-border terrorism. And today's strikes again have called Pakistan's nuclear bluff. I don't think the conflict will become nuclear because Pakistan lacks strategic depth. Its narrow waistline precludes Pakistan from using any nuclear weapons against India. And India has a no first use policy. So India will not be the first to introduce nuclear weapons.
Yes. Now, these are not new in terms of surgical strikes conducted by India. We saw them in 2019, 2016, and somewhere in between as well. Does this one feel different to you?
It feels different because, first, the extent of the strikes that we saw early this morning, we have not seen in the past. Also, in response to the massacre of Hindu tourists on April 22nd, India took some measures, including putting the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. International law is very clear that when a treaty's foundational conditions collapse or one party persistently violates the terms of a treaty, the other party has the right to suspend or withdraw from the treaty. But for now, India has stopped short of blowing up the Indus Waters Treaty. Instead, it has placed the treaty on hold, in abeyance, a term which is not defined in international law. In other words, India is retaining a posture of strategic ambiguity. And this action of India does not, of course, disrupt water flows to Pakistan, because India lacks the hydrological infrastructure to reduce water flows to Pakistan. But it sends a warning to Pakistan: either reform your conduct or risk the collapse of the treaty. And I think that, again, is a major new element in the current situation.
Yes, and then finally, there is a lot of back and forth in terms of the disputes over Pakistan's involvement in the Pahalgam attack. India says it supported the militants behind it. But does India have strong evidence to present to the international community to justify this past action and future actions?
This is not the first major act of terrorism sponsored by Pakistan. There have been horrific acts of terrorism that have been scripted by Pakistan's rogue intelligence agency known as ISI. For example, the Mumbai massacre of 2008. In response to the Mumbai massacre, India sent dossiers of evidence to Pakistan, and nothing happened. And Pakistan's fingerprints in the Mumbai massacre were clear to the international community. In fact, the latest massacre in Pahalgam occurred very shortly after the US extradited to India a key US-based plotter of the Mumbai attacks, a person who had actually worked in the Pakistan army. And also, when there was an attack on Modi's watch in Pathankot, India allowed Pakistan's intelligence agency to come to Pathankot to investigate its own attack. Even that kind of accommodation did not result in a change in Pakistan's behavior. So providing dossiers of evidence, as India has done in the past, has not changed Pakistan's behavior. And that is the reason why, finally, India has employed the military option reluctantly.
Okay, Brahma Chellaney, really appreciate your analysis with us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.